Hey everybody, it's AJ from Knife Bible. In today's video, we're going to be covering hard use folding knives. So here are my top 5 hard use folding knives. The Cold Steel AD10, the Doug Ritter RSK, the Benchmade Freak, Benchmade Griptilian, and the Spyderco Shaman. Everybody has their own opinion on what knives work best for them, depending on their day-to-day, the kind of work they do. You know, I would say that folding knives, there is a plethora of different kind of folding knives out there for you. Especially when we're talking about, you know, your small EDC folding knives to your larger ones. I would say that, for example, the AD10 is one of those that's a little bit heavier, heftier, weighs about 7 ounces, but it is a workhorse. It is probably one of my favorites, and I'll tell you why as we move further along in the video. Everyone knows that having the right tool for the job is extremely important. However, there is a plethora of different options for us out there. Now, it is extremely important to consider the purpose, right? What are you going to be using this tool for? There's no such thing as the perfect knife, specifically when going over folding knives, because they're all going to be different in some form or way. Whether it be the locking system or the deployment, how it deploys, or the edge retention, that type of steel. There's a lot of different things that you have to consider, a lot of variables. So there's really no such thing as the perfect knife. However, there is one that's best for the task at hand. One that could perform better than the others depending on what you're gonna be using it for. In this video, I'm gonna just tell you my personal opinion on which folding knives I prefer, just because of the steels, the handle scales, overall comfort, resharpening, edge retention, corrosion resistance, what steels perform better when cutting certain materials, how easy they are to resharpen. So just keep in mind, it's always important to carry the right tool for the job. So it all depends on what you do on a day-to-day. Would I use a folding knife for a self-defense, tactical scenario? Absolutely not. It's not my first choice. Obviously, your firearm is your first line of defense, followed by a secondary line of defense, which essentially would be a small fixed blade. There's less things that can go wrong with a small fixed blade. If you have a folding knife and you don't practice with it to be able to deploy it fast enough, a lot of things can go wrong. For example, the knife can snag on something, it's not going to open, and then you're going to be stuck in a very sticky scenario. So those are all things to consider. A folding knife is more for, those small to moderate tasks, cutting tasks. But for self-defense, I prefer a small fixed blade as my secondary and primary being the firearm. We won't go into that so much in this video, but I will show you how some of these perform cutting different materials. I've been using some of these tools for several years now. However, for this video, I wanted to test out how some of my top 5 hard use EDC folding knives perform. Now, the reason is because what if I could only choose one? What if I, for some reason, had to get rid of all of them and I could only keep one? The one that's best suited for me and my day-to-day tasks. I used some of these folding knives to cut rope, strike a ferro rod, make feather sticks, carve a little bit of bamboo just to kind of test out that edge retention. I used them for a plethora of tasks outdoors because I wanted to see how they perform outdoors and indoors. So I went ahead and cut some cardboard as well and cut through other sorts of material. I tested the edge to see which one had the best edge retention. So one of the devices that I used to test the edge after using some of these tools was the Edge On Up Professional Edge Tester that I bought a couple years ago at Sharpening Supplies. This helped me determine which steel was going to perform the best given the tasks that I typically do on a day-to-day. Now, I don't go bushcrafting every day, but I do it at least 2 to 3 times a week, or I'm out there camping or whatever the situation may be where I'm doing some of those outdoor tasks. So I wanted to find out which knife would perform best for those tasks. The 2 folding knives that performed the best as far as that edge retention, both outdoors and indoors, was the Benchmade Freak and the Doug Ritter RSK. And the reason is because the RSK has 20 CV steel versus the Benchmade Freak, which is M4. Both have fantastic edge retention. The biggest difference between these two knives is the fact that 20CV is a bit brittle versus the M4, which is a lot tougher. Okay, so that M4 is going to have more ductility versus the 20CV steel that's going to be a bit more on the brittle side. Okay, it's not going to have too much ductility. It's going to have high tensile strength though. Okay, now another thing is the corrosion resistance. Okay, so that Doug Ritter RSK is going to have excellent corrosion resistance because it's that CPM 20CV steel. CPM M4 is going to have great toughness. It's going to have good ductility, but the CPM 20CV is not going to be as great as far as that ductility. It's very brittle, so if you drop it, you're going to chip it. You know, you may even break the tip. Depends on how it falls, but if it falls on a hard surface, you're done for. As far as comfort goes, the Cold Steel 8010 was the winner. And it has S35VN steel, which is very good as far as that corrosion resistance, and it has very good edge retention as well. The handle scales were fantastic. The comfort level was absolutely phenomenal. This was the one that gave me the least amount of hot spots compared to all the other ones. Let's go over some of the specs. The Doug Ritter RSK MK1 has a blade length of 3.44 inches, a blade thickness of 0.125 inches. The blade material is 20 CV. The overall length is 8.15 inches. The weight is 4.5 ounces. And the handle material is G10. The Benchmade Griptilian has a blade length of 3.45 inches. The blade thickness is 0.115 inches. The blade material is CPM S30V. The overall length is 8.04 inches. The weight is 3.88 ounces. And the handle material is a really nice GTX material. The Benchmade Freak has a blade length of 3.60 inches, a blade thickness of 0.114 inches. The blade material is CPM M4. The overall length is 8.46 inches. The weight is 4.30 ounces, and the handle material is a really nice G10. The Spyderco Shaman, the blade length is 3.61 inches. The blade thickness is 0.15 inches. The blade material is CPM S30V. The overall length is 8.31 inches. The weight is 5.24 ounces. And the handle material is a really nice G10 as well. The Cold Steel 8010 blade length is 3.5 inches. The blade thickness is 0.155 inches. The blade material is CPM S35VN. The overall length is 8.75 inches. The weight is a whopping 7 ounces. And the handle material is a amazing G10 and probably the most comfortable handle scales out there. So to give you a little bit of information in reference to S30V, Chris Reeve worked closely with Dick Barber from Crucible Industries to develop this steel. This steel has excellent edge retention, moderate toughness, amazing corrosion resistance, and is quite easy to sharpen. It's much tougher than 440C and D2 with better corrosion resistance than 440C. It can be hardened between 59 and 61 HRC. This is a martensitic stainless steel that contains 1.45% carbon, 14% chromium, 2% molybdenum, and 4% vanadium. RSK M1 designed by Doug Ritter and made by Hogue. This knife has a CPM 20CV blade steel. The blade steel itself is nearly identical to M390. This is a martensitic stainless steel with high amounts of vanadium and chromium. This steel contains very high amounts of chromium, probably more than any other stainless steel, making it a super stainless steel. The corrosion resistance of this steel is nearly unmatched, other than obviously MagnaCut, right? And LC200N and H1. Those are the exceptions. But other than that, this is up there as far as stainless steel goes. It is fantastic and it has amazing edge retention. Now, as far as the composition, it's 1.9% carbon, 20% chromium, 1% molybdenum, 0.6 tungsten, 4% vanadium, And just to note, CPM 20CV is produced by Crucible as well, whereas M390 is produced by Boulder. So this is the Benchmade Freak, and this one has a blade steel made of CPM M4. It's a very tough steel with excellent wear resistance and has around 1.42% carbon. It has better edge retention than M2 and M3. As far as that edge retention goes, it's going to be about the same as the Doug Ritter RSK, which has a blade steel of CPM 20 CV. They're going to be nearly identical as far as that edge retention. But as far as toughness, M4 is going to be way tougher than CPM 20 CV. And the reason is because 20 CV being nearly identical to M390, it's brittle. So if you drop it, you have the chance of chipping or breaking the tip. So the M4 is going to be probably the toughest of all of these knives that are here, the blade steels. The Benchmade Freak is going to be the toughest. And as far as edge retention, similar, nearly identical to the CPM 20 CV. Corrosion resistance, though, it is the least favorite of all these. This one's probably at the bottom of these five as far as corrosion resistance. When compared to CPM 30V, 20CV, and S35VN, it has the least, right, on this table. Now, let me talk about CPM S35VN. So this steel, essentially Chris Reeve worked closely with Dick Barber from Crucible Industries to develop this steel. The main difference between S30V and S35VN is the addition of niobium, hence the N at the end of the name. This steel is slightly tougher than S30V, offering pretty much the same great edge retention and corrosion resistance. The addition of niobium carbides and replacement of vanadium makes S35VN 15% tougher than S30V. It can be hardened between 59 and 61 HRC. It is a martensitic stainless steel that contains 1.40% carbon, 14% chromium, 2% molybdenum, 0.5% niobium, and 3% vanadium. Now, to be completely honest, I have to say that out of all these knives that I spent several weeks testing, I would have to say that the Cold Steel AD10 is by far my favorite. Not just because the steel, CPM S35VN, is phenomenal, and as far as sharpening, it's fairly easy to sharpen when compared to M4 and 20CV. It has really good edge retention, really good corrosion resistance, and good toughness. Even though the M4 is by far tougher, the S35VN is pretty tough as well. It's definitely one of my favorite. And I have to say that just the way that the handle scales feel, the grip, it's just fantastic. It feels very comfortable in my hand. Just keep in mind that these are folding knives, so obviously there's going to be a little bit of discomfort along here, and that's perfectly normal because they are folding knives. But this one is by far the closest to what a fixed blade feels like. It is absolutely comfortable, and it is a amazing workhorse. It is, in my opinion, number one when comparing these my top five hard use EDCs. The AD10 is number one. Second place is the Spyderco Shaman. Third place is the Benchmade Freak, followed by the RSK M1, and last would be the Benchmade Griptilian. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the order. Don't get me wrong, they are all absolutely fantastic hard use EDCs, but I have to say, for just the comfort itself, the AD10 is phenomenal. And another benefit when considering the AD10 is the locking system. So because this has the triad lock, it is absolutely amazing. It is probably the safest locking system out of all the knives here. So even though the Spyderco has a really good compression lock And these three have, actually these two have the Axis lock. This one has the Able lock, which, you know, obviously they're pretty much, they're extremely similar. I would say that the back lock, Triad lock, designed by Andrew Demko, is by far the best. By far the best as far as safety goes. It is the securest one out of all of them. And, you know, if you don't want to take my word for it, there are several videos on YouTube that were made by Blade HQ where they tested all the locking systems, and the lockback is the one that did the best. It performed the best. So just for the safety factor, the AD10 already takes the lead. And when considering the comfort of the handle scales, the AD10 is by far better. The other ones are going to produce hotspots a lot faster. And as far as the blade steel, I really like S35VN. I think they chose a very good steel for this AD10. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and follow our channel, and also follow us on Instagram. Now, one last thing. There was an honorable mention, and that goes to the Spyderco Para 2. It is fantastic EDC. It has blade steel that is CPM, crew wear, which has fantastic edge retention. However, it has pretty low corrosion resistance. It is an honorable mention for us. It didn't make the top 5 for hard use. However, it is absolutely amazing, and one that I recommend that you guys take a look at. We'll be talking a little bit more about CPM crew wear in a separate video. Have a fantastic day. Stay sharp. Stay tuned.